The players spoke today ahead of the 45th Ryder Cup, and our New York Post sports columnist, Mark Cannizzaro, was front and center. So, Mark, thanks for hopping on with this, man. A lot of news coming from the Ryder Cup. It obviously started with President Trump being announced that he is going to be headed to Bethpage Black for all the action. It's already on U.S. home soil. So do you think that this is more added pressure on Team USA, or could this actually be part of the home court advantage?
I don't think it's extra pressure, Brandon. Listen, everybody knows, Trump likes to be at the big event and be visible. I think it just adds to the pomp and circumstance that we already have here. And, Ryder Cups in general are the biggest events in golf. I think, I stated when we did this, interview with you that, yesterday, I want to say that, I think this is going to be the biggest event in golf history. I mean, in terms of the volume and the interest and whatnot. So, having Trump there just ratchets it up, having a sitting president sitting there in the first tee. The interesting dynamic, and I spoke to a guy named Brian Carnes, who's the championship director here, just kind of about the security issues and in terms of when Trump's going to come, because if he comes on Friday morning for the beginning of the matches, the first balls are in the air are at 7:10 in the morning, and if he's going to be sitting on that first tee where there's thousands of seats for spectators, the question is whether with Secret Service and whatnot, can everybody actually get in at that hour of the morning if the president's going to be in there? So if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. Open tennis was delayed, the men's final. And there were a lot of issues getting people into the stadium, at the U.S. Tennis Center. So it's my understanding that I think there's been a recommendation to him and the Secret Service that he come in the afternoon session. Now, nobody really knows for sure other than him when he's going to show up. So I think logistically it could be a nightmare if he comes on Friday morning. I think if he comes Friday afternoon, it'll be a lot easier to get him in and out of here in terms of Secret Service and security, and the fans will already be in here, so it won't be an issue for them.
Well, I'm glad you said that. So fans should be prepared for that commute, the extra time added, because I went to FIFA Club World Cup. Trump was in attendance. The security was there. It took a little bit longer to get into MetLife Stadium. Same thing with UFC 316 down at the Prudential Center in Newark. It was, I had a behind the scenes tour. We had to stand up against the wall because Secret Service was like, all right, Trump, Don Jr. and all of them are coming. So, man, I thought I stole something or something. Mario, I was nervous, man. But at the end of the day, like you said, man, it's going to be a huge event. And yet the president loves to go to these big sporting events. You got a chance to hear from the players today, which I'm so excited about. What's your biggest takeaways from today's player media availability? Did anyone say anything that kind of stuck out to you?
Well, one thing that I find kind of amusing, I'm actually writing a column about it for tomorrow's Post, is there is the U.S. players are getting a $500,000 stipend, $300,000 of which goes to the charity of their choice, and if they want to keep the other 200, they can. And the European side is leaning into that very much. So, like, we don't want money. We're playing for more than money, and et cetera, et cetera. And the 6 players that came into the interview room today, every single one of them said they were giving all the money to charity, to their respective charities and of choice. And there must have been a dozen questions asked by the European media about that and how awkward it is or whatever. It's trying to stir the pot a little bit, and they're leaning into the narrative that the European players care more about the Ryder Cup than the U.S. players do, which I think a few years ago you could have made the argument for that, but I think that's completely changed. I don't think that narrative exists anymore. But the European side is just playing the PR game, and it's quite brilliant, I have to say, because they're making it look like a bad look that the U.S. guys are taking money. But all they're doing is handing it over to charity. So kind of everybody wins, But anyway, it's an amusing game that I'm seeing played back and forth here. So there was a little bit of chatter about that today. Scotty Scheffler, the world number one, was kind of funny because, when Tiger Woods was here, was world number one, there was an aura around Tiger Woods. There still is. I mean, if he's not the greatest player of all time, he's right there with Jack Nicklaus. And Scotty has been the most dominant player we've seen since Tiger. But Scotty's just a very kind of, matter of fact, oh gosh, golly me kind of guy that he doesn't really have an aura about him. So there were some questions asked of him today a little bit about, does he feel like he has an aura? And he kind of laughed and said, I really don't think I have any aura, basically. And he lost a match in Rome, 9-7. A team match, and so there's a lot of talk about that. You want to make up for that and whatnot, and Scheffler is so casual and so even keel. Nothing really rattles his cage at all. So he just kind of says all the right things. But he was one of the guys in there. And just in terms of the golf element of it, Xander Schauffele was in. He has not been in great form this year. He's got one top 10, I want to say, since March. And he didn't play. He wasn't amongst the 10 players that played in Napa a couple of weeks ago, where I went to do some interviews leading into this event, because he just had his first child, him and his wife. He actually was pretty adamant today about the fact that, how good his form is right now, how good he feels, and how well he's hitting it, despite having not played that much, with having his first child. And he didn't even qualify for the Tour Championship at the end of the PGA Tour season. That's how poorly he'd been playing. So he was thumping his chest a little bit about how well he felt he was playing. So that was another little nugget in there.
We got less than 3 days until tee off. Are you starting to feel the energy around Bethpage Black? And do you feel like the players from Team USA and Team Europe, you feel like there's any beef there, any in terms of the competition for an event like the Ryder Cup?
It's really weird. It's kind of a love fest. Both Keegan Bradley, the U.S. captain, and Luke Donald, the European captain, they spent most of yesterday's press conference, waxing poetic about each other. And these guys really, the funny thing is, most of the guys on the European team, they play on a PGA Tour. They live in America. A lot of them do. A good percentage of them do. They're almost as American as Scotty Scheffler and Justin Thomas and the rest of the guys. And they like each other. And the other thing that's interesting too is that you got two players on Europe, Brandon, in Rory McIlroy is he might be the most popular player in the world. And Tommy Fleetwood, who everybody loves. He just won the Tour Championship. The American fans love these guys. So it's going to be hard to see the fans, I don't see the fans really spewing a lot of vitriol toward Tommy Fleetwood. I mean, they have a lot of likable guys on the European team, a lot of fan favorites, if you will, even in America here. So it'll be an interesting dynamic. I really don't think there's a lot of bad blood out there. Listen, these guys desperately want to win. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on the U.S. I mean, if there's ever been the most significant home field advantage, if you will, in Ryder Cup history, Bethpage Black has to be it. I mean, because this place is going to be rabid come Friday. So I think that there's a lot of pressure on the U.S. because the home team usually wins this thing. 8 out of the last 10 have been won by the home team. And the 2 that didn't were European victories in the U.S. soil. So I think, quietly there's a lot of pressure on Keegan Bradley, the U.S. captain, and the U.S. team to hold serve here because, this place is going to be a serious home advantage, on home soil for these guys, maybe more than any other venue that the U.S. has ever played on in America.
Can't wait to feel the vibes. Mark, thanks for hopping on with us today.
Thanks, Brandon. Talk to you soon, man.